Hello, hello, and welcome to Mic Drop episode 12. As always, I'm joined by Katie and Nisha. And Mic Drop is the podcast series where we just kind of bring topics that we want to talk about and what's going on within the music industry and the world around us. And recently, Billie Eilish has been on the cards with an interview that she had relating to vegans and how eating meat is wrong. We've talked about Billie Eilish being very environmentally friendly with her tours and how she produces physical music. But this is more of a lifestyle choice. So, Katie, tell us more.
Yeah, so the reason this really interests me is the internet's kind of gone absolutely mad for it. Like the amount of criticism that she's had is probably the most she's faced to date. And obviously, she's a massive pop star, so she's always in the limelight. And it kind of made me think about what it is about this particular moment that's caused such an outrage. Because, as you said, Will, she's a very outspoken political figure and has been basically for all her career, either to do with like climate activism or standing up for Palestine. There's always been quite big political discourse surrounding her. And even though there's some quite heavy topics, it's this comment that's kind of blown up. And I guess the reason I kind of thought it might be is that while we want all our stars to be political now, like we kind of see it as part of the art, and I think we almost feel like something's lacking if they're not. But I think we expect our stars to be political behind a cause rather than lifestyle choices. I think that it all gets a bit mixed for people when they feel like they're being personally preached to. And I think when it's things like wars or when it's things like global warming, it always feels like there's another enemy. Like with global warming, we want to blame big companies, and with wars, it's the government. But when Billie Eilish is making comments on lifestyle choices, the fans and the people that support her are the people that are directly impacted by that. Um, and I kind of thought about it from two perspectives. I think one is people expect such a community now to do with the other fans, but also the artists themselves. And I think when they have differing opinions on these issues, they almost feel it personally. They feel like Billy doesn't respect them anymore, and it kind of breaks down everything for them. But I also thought it was really interesting that this idea of privilege came into it, because we always look to our stars for political discourse, but they're some of the most privileged people in our society. So you can't remove privilege from that chat. Like it's always going to be part of it. So I think it's interesting that whatever opinions are brought up, this idea of privilege is always used to fight back. It's been the same with Chapel Roan when she distanced herself from fashion companies. People were very quick to be like, well, that's easy for you to do in these big positions. But to me, there's some kind of tension there, because we can't put our pop stars on this pedestal and then turn around and be like, well, actually, your opinion's not valid because you're rich. It just feels like there's some like existing conflict going on there.
Yeah, and I think that's something everyone kind of just wants to fit in within society a lot of the times, and people look towards these stars that maybe break the norms and go outside of that. But the communities, even if the pop star breaks the norm, they still want to fit in within that realm of the pop star, I guess. Um, Nisha, what are your personal thoughts on everything that's kind of
I
been?
think the comment she made, I think that you can't eat animal products and love animals. I think that was just a crazy thing to say, because I think that's just like not true. And I think that's almost her saying, oh, well, if you say you love animals and you eat animal products, then you're a hypocrite. Where I don't think that's the case. I think that definitely is a very privileged comment for her to make. And I just think there's ways you can go about sort of showing that, hey, veganism is actually like a good thing. Maybe you should look into it, or look down on reducing your animal products or something like that, without saying something as kind of stark and as sort of like such a hot take like that. Because I think it is like a really hot take to make, that, oh, if you say you like animals, you can't eat them or eat eggs or cheese or whatever. That's why, that's the kind of part of it that kind of I was like, oh, Like, are we sure? Like, is that actually a fact, or like, why is she saying that in such a way?
Yeah, and I think it's that thing of at the end of the day, it's a lifestyle choice, it's a personal choice. Like that is something that someone will go through. It's like some of my friends are like progress from being vegetarian to vegan, and I think that that comment of if you don't like animals, you can't eat like the products. Yeah, I see where you're coming from there, Nisha, in the privilege perspective because I think it's just, but also I don't see why fans take offense because it is kind of unrelated to being part of that pop stars community. That's her choice, and you have your own choice. So I don't see why there has been this conflict. Um, but also this kind of preaching to is, I guess, how it came about, and that's what's caused the conflict. I'm not too sure if what you guys think of that is because they're being actively preached to, and it's like Billie's not keeping it to herself in a way with her thoughts.
I do think part of it is because it's much more of a personal choice. And it was quite a strong comment to make, but I think if you're a vegan, 90% of the time that is how you think. And I think people expect stars in bigger positions to kind of water that down a bit. And I'd say 90% of the time they do. And obviously, it's not a statement that a lot of her fans are going to like. I'm sure the majority of her fans probably aren't vegan. Um, but I think we're used to now not hearing these more shocking statements, and for me, I just think if you're a vegan, that probably is how you think, and it's interesting that people didn't expect that from her.
Yeah, I think it's not. I wouldn't even say it's that shocking of a statement. It's more the fact that we've seen a global artist just put their foot down on what they believe in, and that's kind of where fans have drawn the line. Because maybe some people can say that artists, if they see a movement, whether that's in relation to a war or global warming, it could be it could just be like tokenist in a way that they're doing it because there's an entire movement rather than it's something they truly believe in. And the fact that Billy's put a foot down on something that she believes in is maybe why it's riled up some fans. And I think kind of on this political topic, we're going to go to a political competition that happened just over the weekend. Eurovision 2026 just took place in Austria. Um, and it was a weird one because we kind of saw an unforeseen win with Bulgaria. So just a little bit of a roundup. Bulgaria had not been in the competition for 3 years. Before like the Eurovision week began, she wasn't really expected to win Dara with Bangaranga. She was 16th in the odds, and then she ended up winning the entire competition. And I think as a whole, we saw a massive switch up. With last year, obviously, Israel are big involvers with whenever it comes to the Eurovision topic. They won the televote, but that was changed this year. They still done well. They came second for the second year in a row. But we are seeing like this slight fall off towards that televote and just Israel as a whole. As we know, the Moroccan oil sponsorship is ending this year. They could easily renew that, and but the whole stakes of their involvement within the competition could easily be changed, and that's with the competition and countries as a whole. So just kind of the thoughts of Moroccan oil being not a sponsorship, what could that mean for Israel? What do you guys think? Nisha?
I would really like to see them switch it up. Because like I said in our last episode, I did not watch this year. And I was kind of upset about it because I do really love the Eurovision. Like I love it every year. It's like a big thing. The run up to the Eurovision, I'm like looking at all the songs, seeing which ones are my favorites. But I didn't do that this year because of the whole Israel involvement, and there was a lot of countries that did pull out, and I thought that was great. I did think there'd be more of a it would affect the competition a bit more, but it didn't, which is kind of crazy. But I'd love to see some switch up because I think um I would like to watch it next year.
Yeah, as you mentioned, like five countries pulled out. I think there was the Netherlands, Spain, Ireland, and a couple of others. I think some have threatened to possibly pull out next year if Israel is still involved. A lot of countries are saying they will return if their involvement is no longer. But I think with this year, I remember in like 2024 and 2025. I remember like checking Twitter in the run up. There was a lot of conflict with Israeli press. Quite specifically in 2024 with Israel and the Dutch artist Jos Klein that year. There was a lot of conflict going on there, and in the end, that led to Jost not actually performing in the grand final in the slot that he had. He lost that. Um, but that seemed to die down this year. So we are seeing like less kind of involvement. They've even changed how the voting system worked to kind of because people had in previous years, people claimed that Israel were using advertisement and ways to get fake votes and encourage people to vote for them more with the whole voting aspect, people used to get 20, then they reduced that to 10. So I think we've just seen an overall change, and maybe they're trying to not indirectly attack Israel and their chances without removing them from the competition. But I think a lot of countries won't be satisfied until they are gone. Katie, I know you've watched it very briefly. So from kind of that outside perspective, what are your thoughts as a whole?
Um, I mean, I don't even really know much about Eurovision. I feel like I don't know if it's the little bubble I'm in, but I haven't heard anything other than what we talked about in the podcast. Like, I wouldn't have even known it was going on really this year. And I don't know if that is because, I don't know, I'd have thought the controversy around it would almost raise the profile of it, but I feel like it's been really obscure, and it's obviously normally such a big thing for people in the UK. So I'm not really sure why that is, but
Yeah, and Nisha, you mentioned how you didn't watch it, you boycotted it because of their involvement. I remember seeing some figures the other day, and overall viewership was down a lot. Like in the big countries, it was down in the UK, it was down in France, it was down in Germany. I think the only country out of like the big five that it went up was Italy, but they kind of weren't involved until 2011. So I mean, over time it's grown for them, but for everyone else, it's went down rapidly. So I think the EBU will see this viewership decline and probably will have to make a stand at some point. But kind of on this Eurovision note, we've had some past artists come out with a new EP together. I think it's Karja, who represented Finland in 2023. He came second. Joost Klein, who I previously mentioned, the Dutch artist in 2024. And last year's Estonia, Tommy Cash, who came third.
Yeah,
So tell us
so
a bit
they're
more.
they're all sort of friends outside of the competition, which I love to see. Even though they weren't in the same year, they just kind of sort of found each other. Um, and yeah, they released an EP on the 11th of May, which I think was that the day of or the day before the first semi-final?
That was the day before the first
The day
semi-final.
before the first semi-final, so it was definitely like a little calculated thing on their part. Obviously, Joost Klein, he was disqualified in 2020. Sorry, I have notes here. 2024, yeah, for speaking up against Israel, and he was then disqualified because there was a bit of tension behind the scenes, and he basically got booted off. Karja, he won the public vote in 2023 but came second overall for Finland. And then Tommy Cash came third last year for Estonia. And they released, it's almost like a spoof EP because there's 3 songs on it, so it's not very many, but the first one is called I Miss Us, and it's basically sort of it's like a ballad reflecting on their time in the Eurovision. um, the second song is called 2000, and it's sort of like a nostalgia bait kind of, Y2K song, and it's very funny. It's actually my favorite out of the 3. And then Mass Destruction, which is kind of like a hardcore rock song. But I think they kind of took each one as sort of previous things that have done well in the Eurovision. Obviously, the kind of ballad, it's kind of the Eurovision's known for its ballads. The nostalgia song, we kind of get those kind of funny jokey songs each year. I'd say some of their songs that did well in the Eurovision were kind of that jokey song. And then the Mass Destruction, you know, you have Lordi who won it for Finland in, I don't know,
Oh
sometime in,
six. It
yeah,
was
sometime in the 2000s with their really kind of heavy metal song. And then Måneskin, they won with a rock song in 2019, I think.
21, I think it was.
2021. Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah, I think it was 21.
um, but I was just kind of like looking at those kind of tropes, so to speak, of the Eurovision and kind of making a joke at them. And I thought it was really clever, you know, because they kind of do stand on business when it comes to kind of what they believe in, and making fun of the Eurovision was something that they believe in this year.
Yeah, and I think it's in that, like, we listed that they'd done so well within the competition. They all came top three. Obviously apart from Joost. But Joost was projected to do very, very well before his disqualification. I think when he performed in a semi-final, I think he either won it or came second in it. So it's like they all would have done well at Eurovision, and they did, but they're the ones kind of coming from this experience and attacking it, um, which is quite, it's really weird to see, because this competition gave them a platform, but then now later down the line they're attacking that platform. Katie, again, just from that outside perspective, what are your thoughts of seeing these artists who done so well at the competition then go and almost go back at it?
I think it must be an absolute nightmare for the organisers, because it's not a good look that these people have a lot to thank the competition for, and they still feel like their beliefs are at odds with the like competition in general. I think that it's definitely going to make a lot more people question what's going on, and I think I'd probably be a little bit nervous if I was organising Eurovision at the moment.
Yeah, and I think the EBU have got their hands full. There's so many different things. You've got obviously Israel as a whole, and then you've got past competitors making jokes and making fun, especially when some of them have returned. So typically on the night they'll do like an interval act. Will sometimes they'll bring past artists. I remember Carrier came back last year,
Yeah.
so it's like, even though he performed in 2023, he came back as an interval act in 2025, and then a year on, he's like almost doesn't want to be involved or associated with the competition and is hitting back against it. I don't know where this has came about. Maybe it's as they've all became friends and they've all shared their experiences. It's kind of been this collective distaste towards it, and maybe the time that they had. Nisha, I'm not sure what your thoughts are.
I think they were friends before it actually, because that interval act last year, it was Carrier and Baby Lasagna. Um and they actually did a little homage to Joost Klein in that.
Mm.
So they did know each other beforehand. So I don't really know why all of a sudden, I mean, obviously Joost Klein has, since he got disqualified, he's kind of had a distaste for the Eurovision, which is fair enough. But the rest of them, like Tommy Cash was only last year, like, and he did come third. So it's just kind of like it does feel calculated in a way, especially with the date it came out and everything like that. But I mean, we don't know what goes on behind the scenes. So maybe they just wanted to kind of do this at this time.
Yeah, and I remember on that calculated note, I saw, I think Yoast posted some TikToks saying like, I know it's Eurovision Day, but please still check out like the new song. And it's like he made some TikToks just to kind of poke fun at the day, even though it's somewhat monumental within his career, even if he didn't perform at the final. So yeah, I think as a whole, as Katie mentioned, the EBU, the organizers, have a lot on their hands when it comes to past artists, the ongoing conflicts within the competition. And yeah, I think, especially, and we keep saying this, I feel like every year, of they need to make like a standout decision. They need to make a big decision that will hopefully take the competition in a upwards trajectory. I can't speak. I'm gonna leave that word.
Trajectory.
Yeah, thank you. Because as I mentioned before, viewership is down. But yeah, kind of looking ahead towards the competition. We're gonna see it go to Bulgaria, for the very first time, which will be very interesting to see because it's been a while since we've had an Eastern European win. Um, and a lot of people are suspecting maybe some Balkan countries to come back, and some other Eastern European countries like Hungary, North Macedonia. So, I mean, at the moment, we can only wait and see. We've got literally another year until May. So yeah, I think that is a nice note to end out. And thank you guys for listening. This has been Mic Drop episode 12. As always, check out our website and our social medias if you want to find out more information, maybe about Eurovision, about Billie Eilish and veganism, and just the world of music as a whole. There's articles galore, so check them out. And thank you for watching. Bye bye.
Bye.